Zach Cregger's Resident Evil, a relentless horror gauntlet. Oh man, don't put your bloody hand to your lips. Oh wait, that's not his hand, is it? Oh, Zach Cregger has opened up about his upcoming Resident Evil movie in a new Empire cover story. And the biggest takeaway is that the whole thing was his idea from the start. What? The barbarian and weapons director did not get chased into the franchise. He went after it himself. Did he? I mean, but maybe that's true. After two of the most talked about horror films over the last few years, Cregger could have taken his pick of major franchises. Instead, he approached the people who control Resident Evil with his own pitch. And they let him run with it, because what else are they going to do? Their own approach has flopped badly. He is a longtime fan of the games, and he is framing the film as a personal project first, and a franchise entry second. As Cregger put it to Empire, this is a Zach Cregger movie that just happens to be a Resident Evil movie. All right. That lines up with how he described the reboot when Sony dropped its first featurette, where he made clear the film is built on dread rather than action. So say he's dreading this bloody zombie woman touching his face. That's a lot of dread. The hook of Cregger's take is the lead character. Austin Abrams plays Brian, a medical courier, and Cregger wants him to function as the audience's way into the world. Brian is not a trained operative with a holster full of skills. Cregger describes him as an everyman saddled with a mission far bigger than he is, telling Empire the concept is that we're following an idiot. He is quick to clarify that Brian is not stupid, just completely out of his depth when it comes to survival. Cregger even searches for the Lord of the Rings to explain it, comparing Brian's journey to Frodo going into Mordor. The everyman angle is not new for this project. Cregger previously joked that he is hopeless with guns and would miss most of his shots if he were dropped into the games, which is the exact energy he is putting into Brian. Anyone expecting the kind of structural curveballs that defined a barbarian in weapons may be surprised. Cregger says the film is far more straightforward, and that is by design. He describes the movie as essentially one giant sequence that kicks off only a few minutes in and barely lets go until the credits. The plan is to push the audience from a set piece to set piece, each location bringing its own threat, the same way the games run players through one deadly room after another. That is a real shift for Cregger. His first two features earned their reputation on twisty, perspective-shifting storytelling, so a deliberately relentless, run-for-your-life structure is a different kind of swing for him. Well, here we go. So it stars, these people, and directed by Cregger, of course, written by him, and Shay Hatton. And it'll be in theaters in September. So, all right then. I mean, Barbarian and Weapons was excellent. So this is a strange thing, considering how Resident Evil was being, and of course I know it from the Milla Jovovich films. But of course, it had zombies and monsters and all that. So you could have a scenario where there's some poor bastard gets flung into this. And I guess that's what it is. And based on the track record of those two other films, I'm definitely going to see this. So, there we go. Resident Evil, a relentless horror gauntlet. Robert Tappert reveals Evil Dead Wrath takes place in 1972. While Evil Dead Burn is still on deck for this summer, producer Robert Tappert has already started pulling the curtain back on the next movie in the franchise, Evil Dead Wrath. It sounds like Francis Galuppi is taking the series somewhere completely different. Speaking this past April at Michigan State University, Tappert revealed that Evil Dead Wrath is a period piece set before the events of the original The Evil Dead. So, this is within continuity of the original films? Because I didn't see any indication of that in the movies we've gotten so far. Anyway, in other words, unless the mythology gets twisted in some unexpected way, this is essentially an Evil Dead prequel. Evil Dead Wrath. This is yet another great departure. It predates everything. It takes place in 1972, Tappert said. That alone is massive. The original, The Evil Dead, was released in 1981 with Sam Raimi's cabin set horror unleashing the Book of the Dead on Ash and his friends. Wrath, going back to 1972, means Galuppi's film is reaching into an earlier corner of the mythology before Ash, before the events we know, and potentially before the franchise's most famous encounter with the Deadites. Tappert also teased that the film is being designed to look and feel like something from that era. It will feel like a 1972 movie because the director and his DP want to imitate the film's look and feel of something that's called Ektachrome 100, which was a film stock. Still available, but a film stock. A lot of movies were shot on that then, and it's so very warm, very tungsten. Well, that is especially interesting coming from Galuppi, whose The Last Stop in Yuma County already showed a very precise command of throwback tension, controlled compositions, and pressure cooker storytelling. Tappert directly contrasted Galuppi's approach with Vinnick's Burn, describing two totally different filmmakers operating inside the same universe. Okay, so they're in the same universe, I guess. So, but once again, now, two entirely different filmmakers. One that shoots everything on a 110mm lens, handheld, always moving, always shaking. And the other one, very Tarantino-esque, very deliberate. He made a movie, not a horror movie, that I liked a great deal called Last Stop in Yuma County. It's worth looking up. The other surprise is that Wrath may be bringing a coming-of-age angle into the franchise. That one, unlike Burn, has a lot of coming-of-age sexual hijinks in it, which people at the universe is not really known for. But this one does, and it goes there, I think. You mean you don't know? Well, anyway, that is not exactly familiar Evil Dead territory, which is probably the point. Burn sounds like domestic trauma and demonic brutality. Well, yeah, demonic brutality will be in all of them. Wrath sounds like 1972, period texture, sexual chaos, and something more dangerous than the franchise has usually attempted. Evil Dead Wrath is currently set for theatrical release on April 7th, 2028. Hey, look, there's the logo, and it even looks like a old 70s, thing. Well, one of the things about a prequel would be about the guy who actually discovered the Book of the Dead and left the recordings behind that Ash and his friends find. See, that would be a prequel. So I don't know if it's going to involve that guy and his family and all that. Maybe. But that would be interesting. Otherwise, it's just, I don't know, the book just keeps ending up in other people's hands. They stupidly open it up and read it, and then all hell breaks loose. Sometimes it's in an apartment building. Sometimes it's in some old country farm. And now it's going to be in the 70s. If it's just that, well, I don't know. But it's supposed to be in the same universe? If you say so. If you say so. Well, we'll have to wait and see.